Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup, just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. AI code generation is moving fast, but quality and confidence, well, they haven't kept pace. The core problem is shared context. Unblocked was built to solve this specific problem. The code review platform is built on the same context senior engineers rely on when reviewing code. The result is fewer comments, higher signal, and reviews teams actually trust. Get a free 3-week trial at getunblocked.com/codestory. That's getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai.
Organizations, they've been for the last 10, 15 years going through this quote unquote digital transformation. And what we've stood back and noticed is you get kind of pockets of modernization or transformation in different areas of a company. And HR will buy their own system and IT will buy it and facilities will buy their own systems, et cetera. And before you know it, you've got tons of different systems within an organization. And now we're trying to use AI to make the business decisions and the data's all over the place, et cetera. And over the last couple of years, what we've noticed is this big shift in the market towards, hey, let's consolidate all of our tools into one big mega platform. My name is James Davies, and I'm the CEO of Kinetic Data.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
A
back.
company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time.
The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how James Davies is reimagining business process so you can orchestrate your work across the enterprise. James Davies lives in the Maryland area and started his career at the crossroads of tech and the auto industry. His first girlfriend's father owned some car lots, so he went to work there, wrote some software, and propelled his success at those dealerships. He notes that the auto industry was fun and has a lot of moving parts, but was pretty taxing personally. And outside of tech, he's married with 2 kids. He grew up around construction, so he enjoys getting his hands dirty and building things. In fact, he's fixing up the barn of the recent home he bought, framing, doing the plumbing, and making it livable. James was working for the State Department as a consultant and was a customer of his current venture. He was chosen to implement the solution, which turned out to be a successful project. Post that project, he was approached by the company to lead projects on the East Coast, and eventually landed in the CEO role. This is James' creation story at Kinetic Data.
Kinetic Data is a workflow company. We're in the business process management space, and we focus on organizations, very large organizations that have complex, really inefficient processes. They've got lots of different systems with different people involved. And we built an orchestration tool that's very much centered on human-centered workflows that stitches together various systems of record to streamline processes that traditionally, they avoid the systems that are there to do them because they're a poor user experience. And then they revert back to email and spreadsheets and stuff like that. So we're in the space of helping organizations become more efficient with their internal processes. And that spans from HR to finance to IT. After transitioning out of the auto business, I went back to some college professors and I said, hey, I want to get out of this business. I decided I didn't want to wake up when I was 50 and be in the auto business. And so I went to school for IT effectively. And they put me in touch with a consulting company that was actually doing some work at the State Department. And so I got assigned to a project at the State Department. And the State Department had just purchased Kinetic Data. And I was the lucky consultant that got to pick up this new technology and run with it. And they certainly have lots of inefficient processes. And we just had a great run. I was working for an implementation, like a consulting company that was implementing at State. It was a wildly successful implementation. And when that project wrapped up, the company gave me a call and they said, hey, you're on the East Coast and we do quite a bit of government work. We're in the Twin Cities and we need someone on the East Coast. Would you be a consultant for us? And I gladly accepted it. I loved the culture of the company, got to interface with their support team quite a bit. So yeah, worked as a consultant, kind of when customers would purchase our software, I would help to implement it and roll it out, make sure that we're successful. Quickly got involved with our sales team as a sales engineer. And as many of your listeners know, sales engineers are at the tip of the spear, doing proof of the concepts, proof of values, showing off the technology. And our organization, I could tell, was very much a founder-led organization with founder-led sales, founder-led engineering. And I noticed quickly that we needed to make a shift and get voice of customer into the product. We didn't have a product manager at the time. After being a consultant for a while, dual-hatted as a sales engineer, they asked me if I would run product in our engineering team. And so I transitioned into that for a number of years and got really hands-on with the tech, helped to organize the team and just make sure that we were prioritizing what we were working on within our platform and making sure that the customer's priorities were our priorities. And so that went really well for a number of years. We recognized that there was a need for some more organization in the company. Our founder is your traditional visionary kind of guy. And so they asked me to then become the chief operating officer and implement some of the same practices that we did on our engineering team, run the company on more of a cadence where we set objectives and we check in on a regular cadence, et cetera. So I did that for a while. And the founder and I just have a fantastic relationship. We're like brothers. And he had some changes in his life where his kids were off to college. He'd been working on the company for a really long time and asked me to take over as CEO just over 13, 14 months ago.
So I'm curious where this is going to go then, but I want to know what, your MVP would be at Kinetic Data, right? So that first maybe project you took on when you joined the company, or maybe even something, interesting you took on as a CEO as well, but that first thing you stepped in to address, and how did you, solve the problem? How did you build the thing? And, what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
Like many startups or smaller companies, you've got a founder or a CEO that's really leading sales. And I recognized quickly that we could build the best product. And we've been working on just a fantastic product for a long time, but we're not putting enough resources or emphasis on go-to-market. So the first kind of, I'll say, MVP was building up a growth team really from scratch. Based on some lessons learned over the years, I decided that I'd head up that initiative. And so I started to slowly hire a full-time marketing person and a full-time salesperson and a partner manager and really just get them going. And I stayed what you would traditionally have as a chief revenue officer and stayed in that role just so I could see the inner workings of what was working, what wasn't, and what needed to be done for a leadership position there. And then after a couple months went by, we had some successes, was able to bring in someone to run the growth function of our organization. I would say that was MVP number one, is really getting a solid growth organization off the ground after being such an engineering-led company for so long. Another challenge, though, is that our product it's quite generic. It's really, you can think of it as almost a framework for building really robust user experiences and workflows, but it's more of a toolkit. And so for the technical people in the audience, that's actually a neat thing. Like a lot of times you don't want a pre-canned solution. You want to build exactly what you want. but it introduced a time to value problem within our sales cycles and within our customers. And so we decided to do really the MVP that I'm talking about now is a starter effectively on our platform that's got a whole bunch of pre-built stuff that gives our customers a leg up and increases time to value. And so we had our success team and our engineering team put a lot of effort into just making it much easier to onboard a new builder into our platform and give them the tools that they need to explore. And then they could take that and go off on their own. And that's drastically reduced the time to value for our customers. It's helped us with documentation and training as well, just having a reference implementation that we could refer to and then start customers from.
This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. You've got both of those completed, right? You build a team that's around go-to-market, and then also at the same time, the implementation sort of guidelines are. How did you progress that as you found success, and how did you mature it? And I think to wrap that in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is, how you built your quote-unquote roadmap, and maybe for those things, but also maybe how you build the roadmap for the company, and what do you look at to decide that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address?
It's an interesting question because we're in the middle of figuring that out right now. So we've got that baseline in place. We're in an interesting market in that we're not your traditional SaaS company where it's $29 a month, you put your credit card in and go. We sell to the largest organizations in the world. So we have very long sales cycles and a lower volume of customers. So what's tricky in our business is getting enough volume inside of, for instance, your sales pipeline to say, hey, this is working in a short period of time. So it really does take time for us. So what I've learned, the approach I'm taking is to not change too much too quick. And it's probably more specific to our ICP and our customers, is that if we try something, we need to let it settle in because we don't necessarily see the metrics until a couple of months go by. And all of that to say, it's a little bit of a slower cycle than I'd like it to be. We're always trying to increase that. But what defines the next step in the roadmap, it really has to do with what our customers are looking for. And they're obviously, there's a lot of emphasis on AI right now. And so we're looking at, without kind of detaching ourselves from our core principles, ways to incorporate more AI into our platform. So it's just a little bit of background here. We position ourselves as this agility layer that sits on top of your systems of record versus consolidating them all into a single platform. And so we're strong believers that the user experience and business workflows that make your business unique should live in its own layer so that you can have a composable architecture. And we feel the same way about AI. We've seen a lot of software companies really jump into that. And what that ultimately does for customers have these pockets of AI all over their organization. And our whole strategy is have a core set of corporate AI tools and then integrate with them. And so we've been slowly seeing where the market goes with that, but then trying to figure out how do we integrate our product and our workflows with AI agents, et cetera. How do we use AI to help our builders build workflows more rapidly? And so that's what we're still in process, figuring out what makes the most sense there. And this year, I think, is going to be a telltale year for AI, where it's not just a hype thing, but it's how do I get the most value out of this?
I'm curious about team, right? And you mentioned on the go-to-market side, and you mentioned building a team there, but in general, I'm curious about how you build teams and what you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you.
I lucked out because as the COO, I did most of the hires of our leadership team that was in place. And so I've got just A+ players there. The way I've organized the company is we're a smaller company. We're just over 30 employees, is into basically 4 buckets. We've got growth, and I talked a little bit about that, product, and that's everything product, a success team, and the success teams runs our support. They run customer success in general. They run implementations and delivery if our customers need help getting our software up and running. And then finally, operations. So I basically have 4 leaders. Those are my 4 direct reports. The number one attribute that I look for in my leader hires is curiosity. I'm constantly looking, because we don't have it all figured out. I'm looking for leaders that aren't necessarily looking to be told what to do, but who'll be curious to find new solutions. They'll find inefficiencies and they'll raise them, and they'll actually do something about them and really grab them, pull up their bootstraps by themselves. And we luckily now have a culture that's just like that. And I think the team's able to follow along and follow through because of the way that I lead, with a lot of transparency. So we're a super open company. We share in the successes, we share in the losses all together. It's really a family-oriented style business, and we've had a lot of success there. And we're blessed that a lot of our employees have been here for 15 plus years, which is unheard of in the tech business.
This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. There's a good chance you've already tried a few AI code review tools, and you're probably ignoring most of their comments. Not because AI can't review code, but because it's missing context. Most AI reviewers focus on surface-level issues, style nits, obvious refactors, or restating what's already clear from the diff. Meanwhile, the things you actually care about, like whether a change violates an earlier architectural decision or quietly duplicates existing logic, go unnoticed. That's the problem Unblocked is built to solve. Unblocked's AI code review is grounded in decision-grade context, prior PRs, design discussions, documentation, and system-level constraints, the same context senior engineers rely on when reviewing code. Teams using Unblocked report fewer comments, higher signal, and automated reviews they actually trust, enough that many have turned off other review tools entirely. Even if you've already written off AI code review, Unblocked is worth a look. Get a free 3-week trial at getunblocked.com/codestory. That's getunblocked.com/codestory. I'm curious about scalability. Where does scalability come into play for you guys? I guess when it comes into how you're building the framework or deploying, but also the business and the people. And have there been interesting areas where you've had to fight scale as you've grown?
I think of scale from a number of different lenses. Like the first one that comes to mind is our product itself and how it scales for our customers. Again, one of our customers is like the Department of Defense in the US. So they've got lots of users. And so can the product scale? And so luckily I feel really comfortable with that, just given our founder's focus on scalability from the beginning and his engineering background. So we have that one covered. Where it becomes somewhat not problematic, but difficult for us as a business to scale is each of our customers does something quite differently. So each of them have different integrations to different tools and different user experiences that they're building. And managing, keeping them on the latest releases, especially when our customers typically are installing our software into their own environments, given their security concerns and the different systems they're integrating with. And so what we've been trying to do is just standardize as much as possible the way that we implement our software, putting together best practices, enforcing some of those best practices in the tool to help us scale so that we don't have to hire another person every time we add a customer, which is certainly not the case. But we recognize if we kept going down the road that we were with everyone's bespoke, that we wouldn't be able to scale. So it's something that we actively address by mostly standardization, some product changes to reduce headaches so that our customers can stay on latest versions of our tool, even though they can build their own worlds on top of our tool.
So then, as you step out on the balcony, and you look across all that you've built, thus far with Kinetic data, what are you most proud of?
It's an easy one for me, but it is one I touched on already. But it's the team. I think it's really hard to come by an organization that's got a culture that's so customer success driven. It's one of our core values. They put everything aside to make sure that our customers stay happy, and they do it with a great attitude. And they also root for the company. They root for our successes. I don't feel like anyone's like kind of a punch in, punch out style employee. So I'm most proud of the culture that we've built. And when you go through a founder to new CEO transition, sometimes you'll get turnover, et cetera, especially from long-term employees. And we've managed to really not have anyone leave the company and have a really smooth transition. I think part of that was because I was involved earlier on and they knew I was a known quantity, so to speak. And then just leading with transparency has helped a lot with that as well.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
One that comes to mind is just figuring out how to make leadership hires. This is prior to me being CEO, but when starting to establish a more formal leadership team, I think we went into the hiring process not really knowing exactly what we needed and made some mishires that were both costly, but also caused some turmoil and then loss of trust from other employees within the company. So what we've done to overcome that is just really establish good practices which this sounds basic, but good practices for how we hire really anyone within the company. We lead with our core values and here's what it is that we do and here's why we do it. And then just a series of making sure if we're bringing in a leader of a team, at this point, we have the benefit of being able to have them interview, frankly, with their whole team that they'd be working with. And we were able to get feedback to make that integration smoother. Yeah, the biggest mistakes that I can think of have really been in mishires. That's a little bit earlier on in the career, but I know how important that is now for sure. And just having a solid process and making sure you're getting buy-in from the rest of the team, at least when you're at the size company that we're at now, has been the biggest lesson learned.
Well, let's move forward then. This will be fun. 13 months ago, however long ago you stepped into the CEO role, I'm curious about the future for Kinetic Data, for the product, for what you offer, and for the team.
We see a pretty big shift happening within the markets that we serve right now. And I'll give a little bit of background as part of the answer. Organizations, they've been for the last 10, 15 years going through this quote unquote digital transformation. And what we've stood back and noticed is you get kind of pockets of modernization or transformation in different areas of a company. And HR will buy their own system and IT will buy it and facilities will buy their own systems, et cetera. And before you know it, you've got tons of different systems within an organization. And now we're trying to use AI to make the business decisions and the data's all over the place, et cetera. And over the last couple of years, what we've noticed is this big shift in the market towards, hey, let's consolidate all of our tools into one big mega platform. And there's a couple of big names out there that do CRM and IT and ERP, et cetera, all in one platform. And our approach has really been over the last couple of years to position ourselves as the opposite of that and really an enabler of a best of breed kind of composable architecture within a large, complex organization. It gives you a lot of benefits. And so some of those benefits are you're not locked into a single vendor and frankly, then their roadmap. And if you ever want to make a change, it won't be massively disruptive to your business. And so to answer your actual question, our roadmap is to really evangelize that message and get it out there. And I feel like we've been, I'll use auto terms to describe this. We've had a Ferrari engine with a Toyota Corolla body on the outside and establishing this growth team, and that'll actually get the message out there. I think that we're going to have a lot of success and very rapid growth over the next couple of years, given some of the shifts in the tech environment too. Like I see some long-standing vendors that have been out there for a long time. They charge a lot of money for their software. And with AI, we're seeing new vendors pop up all the time. And customers, I believe, are going to want to be able to take advantage of those tools. And so they'll need a way to have a plug-and-play architecture to make it so that they can. And I think our story the timing is great for it as organizations wake up and take a look at their IT spend and the ROI that they're getting out of it.
James, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I got to throw one out there to my dad. He instilled just an incredible work ethic in me. I'm one of 5 kids, grew up in New York. It's not cheap to live there. And he worked actually for a family trucking business for the majority of my youth. And he had to work sometimes 3 jobs to make ends meet. But he also did a great job being a dad and making sure that I knew that he loved me and all of that stuff. So I get a lot of my work ethic from him. So that I would say that he's the number one that I look to as far as inspiration. And it's something I want to pass down to my kids as well, with hopefully having a little bit better work-life balance.
Okay, James, last question. So you're getting on a plane. You're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there in the plane. What advice do you give that person, having been leading Kinetic Data in multiple facets so far?
My biggest advice, especially in the tech world, is to, once you get to at least close to MVP, start showing it to customers and prospects and getting feedback as early as possible. In our case, we built this just extremely powerful platform, but thinking about product market fit and taking it to market after the fact has definitely been a struggle. So ensuring that you have product market fit up front, getting some early adopters before you go all in. It's so easy, especially if you're technical like I am, and you'd like to spend your time behind the keyboard cranking out code. You can build the best product in the world, but if the world never sees it, what's the point? And so my biggest advice to them is to get out of your comfort zone. If you're a coder yourself, and go show some people, go show the world, so go get some feedback to help start to influence the way that you're going to take it to market before you spend too much time on the engineering side.
I couldn't agree more with that. That's fantastic advice. Well, James, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling your creation story at Kinetic Data.
Thanks, Noah. It's great to be here.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Some of the best lessons don't come from a classroom. They come from experience. On The Power of Advice, a new podcast series from Capital Group, you'll hear from CEOs, investors, and founders about how they built careers, took risks, and reinvented themselves. If you're starting your own journey, this is the kind of advice you won't want to miss. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Published by Capital Client Group, Inc.
¿Quieres mejor internet? Cox Internet de 300 megas tiene las velocidades rápidas y confiables que buscas. Perfecto para streaming y gaming y trabajar desde casa. Todo por solo $45 al mes cuando agregas Cox Mobile. Incluye equipo de Wi-Fi y garantía de precio de 2 años en tu plan. No esperes. Cámbiate hoy a Cox. Requiere Cox Mobile Gig Unlimited. Garantía de precio no incluye impuestos y cargos. Velocidad de datos móviles se reduce después de 20 gigas al mes.